Hello there, dear listener. I am Steve.
And I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of It's Not About the Money, the podcast where we help you gain the clarity you need to run a successful small business.
Tyler has a financial coaching practice. I run a tax business. We are both small business owners like you, and this podcast is our exploration of entrepreneurship, one episode at a time. And this is another episode in our series, The Many Hats of an Entrepreneur, where we cover business functions that every business has, even the small ones, but where you as the owner may not be the expert. Marketing, IT, sales, finance. Today, we're excited to have a sales expert on the podcast.
That's right. Landon Pitcher, who's a friend of mine, but more importantly, he's the co-founder and CRO of Listo Global, a company that makes it easy for organizations to find, hire, and pay their global teams. Landon has an MBA from the Thunderbird School of Global Management and has lived, studied, and worked in Eastern Europe, Asia, and Africa, with travel experience spanning 20 countries. Throughout his career, Landon has supported hundreds of companies in their efforts to find, hire, pay, and upskill their workforces, enabling them to save billions of dollars via international labor arbitrage. When asked about his greatest accomplishment, Landon emphasizes the fulfillment he derives from being a father and husband, placing this role above any professional title, accolade, or achievement. Landon, welcome to the podcast.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the intro. And
Yeah.
Tyler, I'm going to say being a friend is above my title too. So being a friend of Tyler Smith goes above that.
Okay.
As well.
I was fishing for that, so thank you.
Awesome.
So CRO, is that Chief Revenue Officer?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
Basically all things go to market. So sales, marketing, partnerships. And then I also oversee our recruiting. We do some recruiting for our clients, which is essentially a channel for getting sales. You know, it's not our moneymaker, but it's a way to get more clients using our software and paying people around the world through our platform.
Makes sense. So we know a little bit about what your company does, and the thing that I would love to learn from you is kind of the skills of how do you get good at sales. I don't know if you could talk about like what are the crucial skills that a solopreneur specifically would need to get good at sales, whether that's hard skills or soft skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of thoughts that come to my mind as you ask me that question. And I'm a little bit different from, you probably could have had a couple dozen different guests that have done all sorts of different, they started out in sales in their careers and maybe they did door-to-door sales. And then they finally got a job like, appointment setting in a software environment, call center environment. And then they've just been a lifelong sales person. Tyler mentioned in my intro, I did a global MBA and I really wanted to, do consulting, and I was in corporate finance. So I often call myself a recovering accountant. But it was like, I was in fact, I took a career assessment. It was a Harvard assessment that you answer a zillion questions, as you know, as assessments do. And it ranks your skills, your motivators, and your, and your interests. And it comes up with a whole bunch of different job types that would be a fit for you. And when I did it, mine was like screaming sales and sales management. And at the time I was selling for a bank. And so I thought, oh, it's just skewed because that's what I'm doing right now. Like I just ignored that assessment. 4 years into doing corporate finance and accounting, I was a little bit curious. And, I'll be honest too, like scrolling Instagram, I'd see all my friends like hiking and golfing. And it was like, man, do these people ever work? Meanwhile, I'm in quarter close at 10 o'clock at night in the office, like, reconciling ledgers, which was just not my personality at all. So I decided to pay $100 and take that assessment again. And it still said sales management. So now it's like, okay, I guess I have like the personality for it, but I don't really have the experience in business sales, So what do I do? One of my favorite kind of sales gurus says, sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. So, I think that the first thing to go for is like, are you selling something that you're enthusiastic about? Are you passionate about it? Because if that's the case, it's just going to come natural to you because you're just transferring enthusiasm from one person, from yourself to the next person. And, I'd say don't overthink it in terms of like, okay, how do I get good at sales? People that, naturally buyers, all people, we have sales resistance. And so when we feel like we're being sold, that sales resistance comes up and it could be the best thing for them, but they're going to decline or deny it because they're smelling what my co-founder calls commission breath. It's like, get that out of here. I don't want to buy from you because I can tell you're selling me. So if you were to read all the books and learn all the, spin techniques and hacks, like, for example, like things like, if I could save you $700 a month, is there any reason that you wouldn't want to, you know what I mean? Like to move forward today, right? Like as soon as people hear those tactics and gimmicks and techniques, like they're gone. So I would say to your listeners that are listening to this because they don't have a heavy sales background, congratulations. You've got the first step of becoming a good salesperson. So I would just say be yourself and make sure that whatever it is that you're selling, you're enthusiastic and passionate about.
Okay. Well, that's a really interesting perspective, actually. A couple things that stuck out to me was you mentioned personality, right? There are personality types that might be more inclined naturally to this type of activity. And that's not me, for example. But so I was kind of depressed when you were talking about that. But then you talked about enthusiasm and sales being the transfer of enthusiasm, right? So I think that's an important message for people who might be in a situation like mine, or maybe Steve's. I don't know, Steve, if you're like a natural sales
No,
person or not.
I don't think so.
Something tells me no.
No,
but
no.
but the reason you get into small business often is because you have something you care about, or you want to provide a service or a product to someone that you are enthusiastic about. So that kind of gave me hope. That renewed my hope. Because if you're enthusiastic about it, I'd say that, at least based on what you're saying, Landon, it's like a big chunk of the equation.
I would say the biggest, frankly. You know what I mean? Like, my grandma, for example, she was one of those like lifelong Mary Kay ladies. And she was just so passionate about it, she couldn't stop. Like she was your classic MLM person that it's like, chill out. I'd bring a girlfriend, to meet my cute, sweet grandma. And next thing you know, she's like, can we do a facial tomorrow? And it was like, come on, this is my girlfriend. Like, don't do a facial with her. But she loved it so much that it was just in her it was natural. And she didn't have to do any gimmicks or techniques. And sweet old lady had her pink Cadillac from winning awards with Mary Kay. So anyway.
Amazing.
Well, that's very encouraging, because my next question was going to be, how do you make sales feel more authentic? And it seems like this is the key of, it's something that you're very enthusiastic about. It will help the client. You know how to deliver really well and show them the value of it. You don't have to have all of these gimmicks and the sales techniques that nobody likes, as you said.
Yeah. I'm hate to disappoint your audience if they were going to join this to listen to like which hacks and gimmicks and techniques are going to get the deal closed. There's a lot of other, podcasts and people that make a lot of money spewing that, kind of stuff because they are salespeople. But the same guru that said sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. I was at a company. So my passion is global. I love connecting, people from around the world. I love what, creating opportunities through education and employment does for an individual, but that individual's family, often even their community, to improve their livelihood. And so, my passion is global. So pretty much every sales role I've had has had something to do with global employment or global education. Anyway, I was at a consultancy. What we were selling was awesome. The delivery of it was not awesome. The consultants, it was a culture of fear, and it was very, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I would sell a deal, right? I would get the deal closed, and this client would wire over a whole bunch of money in advance because we're going to help them set up an office, for example, in the Netherlands, and they're going to hire 15 people, and our consulting team's just going to handle it. But as the sales guy, I need to hand that over, and then we're gone. And then like a week later, I would get an email that was like, hey, Landon, this isn't going very well. Like, we just sent you a lot of money and I haven't received a reply to an email for 2 days. You know what I mean? It's something like that. And not talking like $500,000 kind of deals, right? And it's like, I cannot handle this anymore. And so anyway, one time I was listening to a podcast of this guru of mine that I follow, and he mentioned like, "Hey, I'm always want to hear from my listeners. Give me some new ideas for content. What's on your minds?" And so I messaged him on Instagram directly. First time, I just thought maybe he'll see this, maybe not. We'll see. But I said, "What? Like, not all of us salespeople are selling the best in class product or service, So, what do you recommend for the, let's say, 70% of us that don't get to sell the best in class?" And he read right through me in his reply with some expletives. It was like, if he said, sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. And if you're not passionate about what you're selling and you don't believe in what you're selling, quit your job as fast as you can and go somewhere else. I'm not going to do a podcast or a newsletter about that. And then he said, staying in that job is what gives sales a bad name.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Like, because I'm selling a faulty product. If you guys ever remember the movie Matilda, and her dad is like, selling these lemon cars and marking them up a whole bunch of money. And I actually, at that company I was at, I showed that clip to the president of the company and said, "This is how I feel. I feel like I'm selling a yacht, and I put my clients on this big boat and I like send it off the dock, and I'm like waving to them and watching the boat just sink, and I can't do anything to help them." And so that was, a few weeks before my exit interview, as you can imagine. But people remember that I was very vocal at this company. Like, if you don't take good care of my clients that I'm bringing in, I can't keep selling this. And so anyway, sorry, that was kind of another tangent, but essentially just like truly caring about your clients, being passionate about it. There's no hacks, gimmicks or whatever. There's things that you can do. I would say like preparation. That's basic. That's not a sales tactic, but like preparing for your meeting when you have a sales call. Look at their LinkedIn. On certain, we joke that like, I've got one of those meetings like with the type of prospect that, that you're going to say a prayer before the meeting starts, like this, so do your preparation, know a little bit about them, not so much that it's creepy, but be able to have a good, natural flowing conversation, and then ask legit curious questions. So again, not a hack, not a sales gimmick, asking valid questions, like open up your brain types of questions, and get them to do the talking, is going to make all of those sales conversations much, much better.
That's amazing. So what I'm hearing is like it's more of a search than a coercion. Basically, you're searching for people who want and need what you're selling. And if they actually don't want it or don't need it, then your job is not really to get them to pay you anyway, is what I'm hearing, basically. Although we've all been on the side of the receiving end of people who were trying to coerce us to buy things. I remember I got a call for someone's trying to sell me a home equity line of credit or something, right? And they used that exact line you just said. They're like, "If I could save you $500 a month, you would want to go forward, right?" And I was like, "No." And they couldn't give up. They asked me the same question like 8 different times, 10 different ways. And I should have just hung up, but I was just curious to see like this poor, this is like some poor person in a call center just reading a script, but I was just like, and they wouldn't, that they got to, it was just like a loop. They just kept asking me the same question over and over again. And finally I was like, I'm just going to have to let you go. Sorry. This is not going to happen. So anyway.
Well, and you know what? They're going to hang up the phone and go to their boss and be like, "I don't know what else could I have done?" Like, this guy was perfect for us and he needed exactly what we have. But the fact that he had commission breath just turned you off enough that you're like, "Nope, I don't care about $500 a month. I feel like I'm being scammed.
Yeah.
And I don't feel, safe and secure." And so a good salesperson has the confidence in their offering to actually go the opposite direction and what we call dequalify. So when you're selling your offering and you're asking those good questions, ask the ones that maybe will cause you to lose the deal. So that home equity line of credit, you're asking the kinds of questions. It's like, how much equity do you have? Yada, yada, yada. But also, why would you not want to do this? And then a lot of people gain quick credibility by saying, okay, yeah, maybe you're not necessarily fit for us, but if you want, I have a partner that I could refer you to, or something like that. Or maybe you're going to be a fit for us in 6 months. And that just totally changes. That actually is a tactic and a gimmick called the takeaway close. Like when someone is just about there and then you're like, oh, never mind, I don't want to sell it to you anyway. Like you're not going to be a good fit for this. This kind of car is for the really, really wealthy people, and I get the impression that, whatever. So that, not necessarily saying do a takeaway close, but dequalify your prospect and know why they shouldn't be a good customer for you. And it will also save you heartache, both from the standpoint of making the sales. You're not wasting time with bad prospects in a sales process and chasing them and following up, but also when they become a client, you're working with clients that are fit for you.
That makes a lot of sense. Landon, you're making me feel a lot better about sales. Thank you. This is great.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I also liked about what you just said was the alignment between the salesperson and the delivery person. And if you're a solopreneur, that's you on both counts. And if you're passionate about the thing you're delivering and you can sell it well, like you've already got that alignment there. So that's kind of another encouraging superpower of being a solopreneur, where you have to wear all of these hats at the same time.
Totally. Yeah. And I think I would also say use your natural interests. And sales is such an art, in my opinion. There is definitely some science to it, but it's such an art that everybody sells differently. One of the things that I bring to sales that's different from my co-founder, I think I am more on the science side of it, coming from the corporate, background in finance and spreadsheets. And he is a musician. He actually has he's on iTunes and Spotify and everything. And when he's on a sales call, it is actually like you get goosebumps. It's beautiful. It's like when he's pitching to investors to invest in our company, I'm like, wow, that was so good. I don't do that for my, prospects. But a couple of the things that I do reasonably well is I've had to learn how to manage my time, manage my tasks. I know Tyler got me into, Todoist and more productivity, time management, those kinds of things that allow me to I will follow up, I'm not going to miss that opportunity. If it's 3 days have gone by and you said you were going to get back to me, hey, text message or a call, has anything changed in the last 3 days? Are we still on track? Those kinds of things. And then I've been one that it's a weird brag, but I sell with a spreadsheet instead of a slide deck. I'll leave the PowerPoint at home and I'll bring out the spreadsheet. So making it really obvious and clear with numbers why this is going to be a benefit to you, right? Like how we can quantify the savings, the risk reduction, or whatever it is that benefit is. Let's put it in numbers, put it in a spreadsheet and show it to you on a call rather than, pumping through a bunch of slides. But if you're really good at slides and you got some cool animations or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's your skill and that's your interest and you're good at it, go for it, do it, work it in and it'll make it so that you're having a better time in sales. I would never say everybody should sell with spreadsheets because that's what I do. Do what you do well and have fun with it. And it will put your prospects more at ease and that they'll enjoy the sales process more.
That's really cool that you were able to bring in your background in accounting and numbers and spreadsheets to
I couldn't not do it. We were selling a product that was, in this consulting space. So if you wanted to hire 10 people, for example, in Brazil, and let's say we were going to charge you, we could use our own legal entity to hire them. And so, let's say we're going to charge $1,000 a person, or we could help you set up your own legal entity. And it might be $90,000 in consulting services for it to help you set up your own, or it's going to be 10 grand a month. Right. So it was pretty easy to take both proposals, put them all on a spreadsheet and actually show here's how many people you're paying. Here's how much you're paying them. And here's all the things you're going to need besides us to setting up. You're going to need an accounting, you're going to need HR, you're going to need legal, you're going to need all these things. So here you go, Mr. Customer. Here's a spreadsheet. You put in the inputs and it's going to tell you which one. Luckily for me, both of those options were, going to be a deal for,
Yeah.
for us and then that makes them not go to the other options. They're not talking to other companies when they're just comparing our offerings side by side. So, some of those kind of things can really help just, make it perfectly clear to your audience. Yeah.
So you've had a lot of experience in sales throughout a lot of your career. I'm curious, what could you say to us about how to get better at it? Is it kind of a practice makes perfect thing? Should we expect to fail so much of the time? What's your
Yes.
journey been like there? And are there any words of wisdom you could share with us about how to get started and keep going?
Whew, where do I start on that? Okay. Two things. Well, the first, I'm going to answer the part like about failures. And should you expect to fail? Yes. Should you plan to fail? Yes. And should you pick certain prospects that you're going to experiment with, knowing that you're probably going to fail? Yes. Like there's certain, maybe you're going to try this question, or you're going to present in this format, starting with this story, for example, and explain the context, and then you're going to come in with questions. Or maybe you want to start with your questions and then go into the story, and experiment with those kinds of things, A/B test all the time, and know that you are going to fail, and that's okay. I think the key is having where that concerns and panics people is, well, in order to do that, I need to have enough at bats. I need to have enough sales appointments that, like, every single one of those appointments isn't so precious that I can afford to,
Mm.
to experiment and lose some. So that's another piece. That's another skill of sales, is the grit and the grind to go get those appointments. So I guess I would say it depends too on how hard it is for you to get sales appointments, what you're doing to generate leads and sales conversations. Whatever it is, try to, get that throttle fully loaded so that you have so many appointments that you can afford definitely to experiment and fail.
Interesting. We recently interviewed an expert on marketing, and that,
Okay.
it seems like there's a little bit of an overlap there, right? Again,
Totally.
she had a really nice take on what marketing is, as far as like an activity and a business function and things. And we kind of talked about the overlap between marketing and sales and how it's not like anyway, it's a great conversation. But yeah, that's where I'm going with that is, again, back to kind of the solopreneur or the small business owner who's kind of trying to do this all themselves. Maybe, yeah. What about focusing on generating those opportunities versus, because you don't have like a business development rep, right? Necessarily, you are that person, and you're the person
Yeah.
that's coming in to close the deal potentially.
Like how do you fill the pipeline? How do you make sure that you
Well,
have
I
enough of the sales
guess
calls that you can then afford to experiment and be willing to lose some of the prospects because you don't need them all?
maybe, because I think a misconception that I had before we did our episode on marketing is that was the job of marketing, right? It's like the marketing
Mm.
team gets leads and then hands them over to sales. I think that was a misconception though, based on that conversation, and it seems like there's a lot more overlap potentially, and of course it's going to depend on the organization and how they're structured and all those things. But uh, because from this conversation, I'm getting that, yeah, a big part of sales is the grind of filling the calendar, right?
And so the thing about marketing and sales in a corporate world hate each other. That, like, it's this environment where, especially in software sales, where marketing is like, hey, you guys aren't following up on my leads, you lazy salespeople that are always out golfing. Like, I got you 10 leads and you've only talked to 5 of them. And then sales is like, I'm not going to waste my time with those stupid leads. Like, those are just tire kickers and they're no good. And then, marketing will come out with the new slide deck that sales needs to use in all their presentations. And sales is like, you didn't put any of my good questions in the slide deck. And like, all the reasons that people buy aren't what, like, you're not talking to prospects. So I know, and you don't. So first of all, sales has got a huge ego. They think they can do marketing all day, every day. And I happen to know, like, I am not the marketing guy. Like, and I kind of put it like, if it has our brand on it, that's where I divide between sales and marketing. If it's branded, and if it goes to the masses, if it goes to the general audience, then it's marketing. I draw that line on if it's a conversation more like one-to-one, then it's sales. So yeah, you kind of just always have that tension. If you're a solopreneur and you've got to do sales and marketing, dang it. I'm sorry.
You're just going to hate yourself.
Yeah, you're going to hate yourself. Like I would say, okay, now you got to because you can't just have leads falling in your lap. So you either need to be you're either going to need to get in front of people all the time. So now you're cold calling and cold emailing all the time and going to events and networking things like crazy. And then next step is automation. And so then you could do email automation and LinkedIn automation. And that used to work about 5 years ago. And it was like, oh, wow, Tyler's emailed me 3 times. He must really want to meet with me. But now nobody believes that Tyler was really emailing me. We all know that's the third automation that's just getting in my inbox and causing sales resistance. So now if Tyler sends the most perfect email that is exactly what I need in this home equity to save $500 a month, I don't even want to talk to him because I'm ticked that, he disrupted my day and I've got other more important things to do. So that sales resistance can go up with automation. So, the little bit of advice, I guess I would have two pieces there. You kind of can't live without some form of cold outreach. And so shameless plug for my own company, my SDR is in South Africa. We eat our own dog food. We do global hiring. His base salary we started was $1,500 a month, which was great for him. So if any of you out there can afford to sliver that off, then my calendar today, I literally have, including this, 15 appointments today. I've pulled in
wow,
all your appointments I want on Fridays and Thursdays if they are in Asia or Europe, so he set 15 appointments for me this week. He's amazing. And it's Filipino wage level, but English is his first language. He's a former semi-pro soccer player. He's maybe one of the favorite employees that's ever worked for me ever. And at that price point, it's absolutely incredible. Right. So so what he does is he handles all my automation. He impersonates me on email and LinkedIn. We have multiple burner accounts. So it's going out to people all the time with very specific information. So I hope none of my listeners have received one of these messages on LinkedIn, but I'll give you an example. Because we do global hiring, I'm a part of a group called LDS Professionals on LinkedIn. And so, then you can search by a keyword. So for example, we got a list of languages that are very specific to only one country. And so over the last 2 weeks, we created a list in LinkedIn Sales Navigator of people in that group of LDS professionals who speak Ukrainian or Zulu or Tagalog, right? For example. And then if they speak Tagalog, then the message is, hey, I saw you're in the LDS professionals group and you speak Tagalog. Did you serve a mission in the Philippines? Same with Ukraine, same with Zulu in South Africa. And yes, I did. I was there from 03 to 05. And then did you know this person? Or, and I'm not going straight for the kill. Josh is back there in the background, following up and saying, that's really cool. What part of Ukraine were you in for the most, and so it's generating what actually is a legitimate conversation. And then he will slip in our co-founders at Listo. My co-founders also serve missions in Brazil and Mexico. We're really passionate about global hiring. Have you ever thought about hiring from Ukraine? If so, we offer 10 hours of free recruiting to people that have volunteered in a country before. So taking you through a very, very customized specific list that's not spewing to the masses, and knowing ahead of time, okay, here's exactly the way I'm going to tailor this conversation. So to any listeners here that are in the LDS professionals, save me the trouble and just tell me where you serve your mission and if you want to hire there. Otherwise, you might get a connection request from me and say hi to Josh in South Africa if you get that connection request. So.
Oh, that's cool. I just feel like I got a peek behind the curtain there about how things are done.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get, it's guerrilla warfare, so you got to get scrappy and whatnot. So I guess what I would say is like hire someone that can handle the automation and the follow up for you. Because I could get 25 people that said like, yes, I served in Ukraine, but I'm never going to have time to go back and like like have a conversation that's going to drive them to the appointment. You almost need someone that's totally dedicated and paid based on appointment to go back and follow up 3 days later. Like, and again, like, where in Ukraine were you, or you have an interest in hiring in Ukraine, and those kind of things. So, and then the other part, I would say, if you're a solopreneur, Tyler, you actually don't know this, but I sent your email to the rest of my team when you started your business for financial planning and you started your newsletter. Not even the newsletter. You emailed your friends and family and said like, "Hey, I'm starting a newsletter on financial, whatever it is. Please click here to subscribe to it." And my wife and I were both like, "Oh, that's so awesome. Like, I'm supporting Tyler. I'm signing up for that newsletter and it's amazing." So then now you have a little newsletter base. Now grow it. And I would say maybe a suggestion for you, Tyler, and this might be a little out of your comfort zone where you're like, I'm not a salesperson,
I'm ready.
but incentivize referrals in some capacity, right? So like, do you know someone, because your audience has all sorts of people, from very financially secured to probably really need some help. So for you to say something to the effect of, if you know someone that could benefit from financial advice, a brother, cousin, neighbor, friend, I'm always happy to do a consultation or two for free. Please send them my way. And so now you start generating a referral outreach, and those are the best leads anyway. So at Listo, my company, our sales like appointment setting efforts are essentially Josh in South Africa. And then all the rest of our salespeople are working to get referrals, just driving referrals from our referral partners, law firms, recruiters, accountants, payroll companies. And so they're more warm and there's less sales resistance when a referral comes versus the cold outbound outreach.
Yeah. Wow. You're just showering us with wisdom. This is amazing. And thank you to you and your
You're
wife
very
for
kind.
being like the original
It's just
subscribers. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support. So,
Of course. Yeah.
you mentioned a couple things that might fall into this, but mental blocks, like for me, right? You're like, you said this might be out of my comfort zone, and yeah, this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm willing to go there. I mean, this is like an experiment for me, kind of a new challenge for myself. So
Mhm.
so what are some, and even with your level of experience, do you still experience any mental blocks, or kind of do you get nervous ever, or that's kind of a personal question, but what do you, so you could answer that, but then also what would you say to someone who is new and kind of does feel nervous about this?
Okay. Yeah. Great question, Tyler. So I've been in sales for quite a long time now, and just yesterday had like a super cringe conversation. Like it was, I couldn't wait to get off the phone. Like it was a gal in India and she was at like some kind of a tourist place. The music was loud. I couldn't hear her. And she was truly trying to just shake me down on price, like trying to get rock bottom. And oh man, it was just awful. And so, yeah, I get nervous. Even there's emails that will sit in my box. It's like that. This one's going to take a little while to write because I need to be very methodical about this and prepped for it, which kind of stinks because you need to be able to respond quickly, but I need some dedicated time for this. So no matter how good and experienced you are in sales, when, this email or this conversation or this meeting is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. You're going to have to negotiate something. You're, redlining it through a contract or offering a discount, but still staying your ground. Like, yeah, some of those conversations are uncomfortable. Asking people for referrals or asking people for business. It's just one of those. It's like last year in the summer, I was running like a deer. I don't know why. Like I started hiking and then I started doing some trail jogging, and it was like amazing. But if you go a week without running once, like the next time you go run, it's almost like, oh my goodness, have I ever ran? Like, last week, I did 7 miles of trail running and then I didn't run for 10 days. And now I feel like I've never run a day in my life. And that is a little bit like, it's a muscle that you've got to just develop and keep going. I would even say, there's a great area for the practice failing is just like, I am going to fail on this one. And I'm just going to ask someone for their business, or I'm going to follow up with this person that I've talked to for 9 months and just like, hey, is now the time? Anything changed between now and then? Because, asking for the business is a little bit, that's the scary part, like, that we all have. But if you're enthusiastic and you believe in what you're selling, what you're offering, and you have other people that are enthusiastic and believe in what you're offering, it just makes it a lot easier to go about doing that. And especially asking those enthusiastic people to refer business to you is like no brainer. So, especially if you have data on it. So if you get people to leave you a good review, or you send out a net promoter score, a NPS, how likely are you to recommend on a scale of 1 to 10? And they say 9 or 10, you got to go ask them for the recommendation then, like, hey, I noticed you said a 9 or a 10. I just wanted to let you know that if you do, I will give you, 10% of the income on any referrals that you sent to me, or a little vacation voucher, or, you know what I mean? Like a hotel night stay for any referrals that you send my way. I just want to know, like, thank you in advance. Really appreciate it.
So you can't see this if you're listening, but I just did a literal face palm because I actually have been doing an NPS survey, whatever, the scale 9 to 10, 1 to 10. How likely would you be to refer? I've done that with my clients, and I've gotten 9s or 10s, most always, and I've never asked them for a referral. So way to go, Tyler. Wow.
There you go.
But it's not too late.
Some good
leaving it.
low hanging
it's
fruit.
not too late.
Yeah.
Low hanging fruit. And again, like, make it say thanks in advance instead of I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, thank you in advance. If you gave me a 9 or a 10. So I imagine you'll come across a conversation where you talk to someone that could benefit from the consultation that I gave to you. If you send someone my way, just want, I'm going to send you and your wife a hotel to stay at this Marriott downtown or something, whatever, like, do something for them like that.
Interesting. Well, very good.
So it sounds like,
yeah,
it will be uncomfortable. It's maybe forever. There will still be uncomfortable things, but you got to keep practicing, keep pushing through it. Because the experience, you'll get better at it. And also it's worth becoming better at this skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's one where, like, asking for the referral or asking for the appointment, is one of those that is like, don't ever let yourself get too tired to go up the stairs, right? Like, like, don't ever let that muscle undeveloped to the point that you're too nervous or too scared to just ask for a recommendation, a review, a referral, or an appointment if that's, if you know that it's going to benefit that individual or that business.
Mm-hmm.
This has been great. I kind of want to circle back to one thing you said earlier that really inspired me a lot, which was the story you told about when you were working in a place in sales and you felt like it was not the best in class, and that really bothered you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it seems like that was like a big turning point for you in your career, maybe even in your life. I don't want to overstate things, but when you had that interaction with the sales guru and he gave you that response of, like, if you can't get excited about it, like, quit, right? Go do something else. I'm curious, was that a contributing factor to becoming a co-founder for your own company? Like, and were you just like, you know what, I'm going to create the best in class thing here and sell that so that I can be enthusiastic about it?
Yes, 100%. I mean, there's a handful of variables that go into starting your own company, of course, and everyone's variables are different. But, yeah, I was begging my co-founders who both worked at that same company with me. One was the general counsel for them. And then the other one was, on my team, a very close friend, the one that I said, like, sounds like he's singing when he's doing presentations, And so every time I would get an angry email from a client, I would, and they felt the same way. Freddie he couldn't handle it. It was so frustrating to us. So I was always just like, come on, let's go do this on our own. We know the industry, the demand for our offering is through the roof. Let's stop making these other people rich that don't care about our clients or their employees. And so it took me a little while to get that sale done, but they eventually broke away, and we came back together 2 years ago. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that story,
Cool.
I could tell more about it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I think your audience would really, that probably is really, really resonates with them, that you don't have to be like a sales sensei to do well. You just, if you truly care
Yeah.
about what you're doing and who you're, selling to, and you believe that will help them, then you're already 75% of the way there.
Yeah, that part has been real inspiring to me today. So I'm glad you told those stories.
Yeah, I think this has been a really interesting conversation. I've learned a ton personally. I have some action items to do, so
Yeah,
in my
Yeah.
own business. So
Same here.
yeah. Landon,
Well,
thank you
actually,
so much. Oh, go ahead.
maybe I could throw in one more story.
No, go for it.
I was at a bank, and I was having success in sales. And so this bank actually got a lot of press for being overly sales aggressive. Wells Fargo Bank, if you haven't heard about them in the last 10
Oh,
years,
yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
they got a lot, it was out of hand. But couple of things that I learned from, how long did I work there? 3 or 4 years during college. Number one, they converted bank tellers to appointment setters, like salespeople. And so you had like old ladies, you know what I mean, that were just working part-time, and they were like, now I have a sales quota and I hate it, but they were good. And you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't have to be that shiny tooth bing salesperson to be good at it. So, but so the tellers would set appointments for the bankers, who would then say like, oh, I saw that, Sally here, your teller, noticed that you don't have a savings account or a credit card with us, and we can put this in a bundle. It won't cost you a thing. And now, you'll have a savings account, and you can start saving, right? Okay. Yay. So the personal banker would close the deal and sell the savings account. And then Sally would get credit for the referral. Right. And so anyway, I was transferred to a different branch. And I kind of came in with a little bit of like a reputation of like, this guy is top of the charts in Utah for sales. And here he comes. And like a couple of the tellers were like, hey, I know that you've been like Mr. Sales Guy at Wells Fargo, but this branch, we don't sell. Like, we give really good customer service. Our customer service scores are through the roof, but like, I just want to temper your expectations that like, you're not going to be Mr. Sales Guy, unfortunately, now that you came to our branch. And so it was like, oh, cool. Well, instantly I'm like, well, if we have that great of customer service scores, there's no way that we won't also get the sales, because that means that we have the trust, we have the rapport with our audience that's coming in. And so all I needed to do was help the tellers to see that, like, if you just ask, just do that one hard piece is just to ask for the appointment, then I will close the deal and we'll make it happen. And so it was like March Madness. I think it was March. And I said, like, I don't care what you have to do to get someone in my seat, whether it's like, hey, I need you to update your driver's license, whatever, like come up with any excuse for your customer at Wells Fargo to come get in my seat. If I sell them something, then great, you get credit. If I don't sell them something, then you advance in our March Madness bracket. And we were going to give away like, an iPod or something, right? That dates me. This is like 2008. So anyway, we had this like March Madness bracket, and it's me versus the teller in every single game. And we didn't end up finishing because what they saw was, oh my goodness, I get someone in Landon's chair, he will sell them something. Like, he'll find it and make it good. And the customer is going to be happy walking away like, yay, I just got a savings account. I didn't even know that would be something that would benefit me. But now I can see that like having a savings account or using online bill pay, or why have I been living without a debit card all these years? So then the tellers could see like, I'm just transferring enthusiasm. I'm helping them improve their financial, system, or whatever you want to call it. And they can do it. And so that branch truly went from like bottom feeder in sales, while top in customer service, remained top in customer service, and became a top selling branch, only because people recognize like, all I got to do is open my mouth and offer it, and that people will find the fit and it will be a benefit to them. So kind of a fun story. that hopefully that will inspire people too, that have customers that love them. Just make sure you keep asking.
Awesome. Well, Landon, thanks so much for coming on here and sharing your experience, your expertise, and especially the stories. Those were great.
Yeah, they're fun. They say stories sell. So there's your last little tidbit.
Yes.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Landon.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
That'll wrap it up for this episode. You can email us hello@notaboutmoney.com, and we'll see you again on another episode of It's Not About the Money.